The Great Sphinx of Giza is supposed to be settled history. Officially, it was carved around 2500 BCE, during the reign of Pharaoh Khafre, a monument of royal authorities staring east into the rising sun. Case closed. Except the stone itself keeps raising a problem, one that refuses to fit neatly into that timeline. Because the Sphinx is not just weathered, it is eroded in a way that doesn't match the desert it sits in today. Look closely at its body and enclosure walls, and you don't see the sharp, angular wear you'd expect from sand and wind. Instead, you see deep, rounded vertical channels, soft, undulating grooves, patterns that resemble runoff, pooling, and sustained exposure to heavy rainfall. And that is where the controversy begins. Egypt has not experienced sustained heavy rainfall for thousands of years. Geologists have known this for decades. The climate data is clear. The Sahara did not become hyper-arid overnight, but by around 3000 BCE, Egypt had already entered a largely dry phase. Wind erosion dominates in such environments, scouring stone horizontally and undercutting it near ground level. The Sphinx, however, tells a different story. Its erosion runs vertically as if water once poured down its sides again and again. This observation was first pushed into the spotlight by geologist Robert Schoch in the 1990s. His conclusion was not subtle. If the erosion on the Sphinx was caused primarily by rainfall, then the monument must predate the desert, possibly by several thousand years, potentially as far back as 7,000 to 10,000 BCE, when the region experienced a much wetter climate. That suggestion detonated inside Egyptology. If true, it would mean the Sphinx was already ancient when the pyramids were built. The debate hinges on one question: what kind of erosion are we actually seeing? Critics argue the damage music can be explained by a combination of wind erosion, salt exfoliation, groundwater seepage, and the poor quality of some limestone layers. But here is the problem. Wind erosion does not typically carve deep vertical channels across large surfaces. It erades exposed edges and undercuts weaker zones. Water, especially rainfall running down rock faces, creates precisely the kind of vertical weathering seen in the Sphinx enclosure. And similar patterns appear not only on the statue, but on the surrounding walls that were cut at the same time. That widens the question. The enclosure walls are shielded from sand blasting in ways the statue itself is not. Yet they show the same rounded water-like erosion. If wind were the primary culprit, those protected surfaces should look different. They do not. Then there is the archaeological context. The Sphinx sits within a carefully planned 4th Dynasty complex aligned with Khafre's Causeway and Valley Temple. Blocks quarried from the Sphinx enclosure were used in nearby structures, tying the excavation to dynastic construction. That linkage is one of the strongest arguments against an extreme pre-dynastic date. It suggests the Sphinx and its surroundings were carved as part of a single architectural program. Unless the builders were reshaping something that already existed, this is where the idea becomes more uncomfortable. There is no inscription inside the Sphinx enclosure stating who built it or when. Attribution to Khafre is circumstantial based on proximity, alignment, and style. After decades of study, no explanation fully satisfies both geology and archaeology at the same time. Either the erosion looks wrong for music, the accepted date, or the date fits poorly with the erosion. The Sphinx sits at the fault line between disciplines where stone refuses to obey the timeline written for it. So, is the Sphinx 10,000 years old? There is no definitive proof, no artifact sealed beneath music, it with a date, no inscription announcing a forgotten civilization. But the erosion evidence does force a harder truth.